Well, half a day, church family. It's good to be gathered back together with our community groups. I'd like to maybe give you a little bit of the behind the scenes of what goes into some of these community group videos. I'm not just talking about Seth back there behind the camera. Appreciate what he's doing. I would make him step out here, but he'd just edit that out, I'm sure. Yeah, he's nodding. When we get the topics figured out and start planning through the series that we're going to do, the pastors get to sign up for what day, what topic we'll be sharing. And if you're the last person to sign up, you end up recording during missions conference week, and you have a topic that seems like it could go a million different directions. So here we are. We are continuing going through the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. So today we'll be talking about goodness and how that can be evident in our lives, this fruit of the Spirit. So what does goodness mean? This idea of goodness or something being good, really, the way we use the word could mean so many different things. And I think that's part of just the behind the scenes, my thought process of trying to prepare for this and to study it out. My mind just goes so many different ways because we use goodness and good in so many different ways. I thought of, if you're a fan of the book, The Hobbit, the opening chapter, when Gandalf the wizard comes to the house of Bilbo Baggins, the Hobbit. I'll read just a little paragraph. "Good morning," said Bilbo. And he meant it. The sun was shining. The grass was very green. But Gandalf looked at him from under long bushy eyebrows that stuck out farther than the brim of his shady hat. "What do you mean?" he said. "Do you wish me a good morning? Or mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not? Or that you feel good this morning? Or that it's a morning to be good on?" "Well, all of them at once," said Bilbo. So we've got, when we say goodness, what do you mean? All sorts of different things. I think sometimes we, like Bilbo, use this word good in a way that's so broad it could take away any real meaning behind it. Maybe you've had a conversation like this that I've had with my kids. "How was your day at school?" "Good." Or maybe you've had a conversation like this with a coworker or someone. "Hey, how's it going?" "Good." Like, we just throw that word out there. What does that even mean? And I think part of the challenge is of knowing what good or goodness is because our definition of what is good is normally characterized by our own personal preferences. We might like certain foods. I might call a food good that you might call not good. Maybe in your group, if you're gathered together, if you're sharing some food or some snacks, maybe there's something that you might have different preferences on what's good, what's not. Sometimes this idea of what good is based on our personal standards of what we classify as good enough. You might have a sports team that you think is good, or you might think that your grades are good, and that standard could be evident. Well, what's the definition? What are we looking at? Maybe some of you kids have a standard of, hey, I think my grades are good, and your parents are looking at those same grades and saying, no way, those aren't good at all. So what are we talking about? That kind of goes all the way back to the beginning, when God makes a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And are we going to trust God's definition of here, he's the one who knows what's good and what's not? Or are we going to define it on our own? So let's take a look at, what does God mean? What is he talking about? What does he say when goodness? Because we could think, hey, I've got goodness in my life. I'm a good person. I'm showing goodness. But if our understanding of what goodness is different from God's, it could be a real problem. And even when we look biblically, this idea of goodness in the Bible could have a lot of various meanings. The word good and goodness shows up all over the place. But I want to take a very close look at this verse and see what goodness is. And again, just the total honesty here, the behind the scenes. I'm not a Greek scholar. I had to do a lot of research and looking up what other people wrote about this and how other people have defined these words. But as I did some of this research in what this idea of goodness is, the million different directions this could go kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's really a very specific thing. And even as I looked into the definition of this word and the word before it, found out they're very similar. So we've got kindness, which Pastor Ken talked about last week, and goodness. And while there are different words, their definition is almost identical. Not even going to pronounce these right, but Christotens, I think, is kindness. That's morally excellent, gentleness, goodness, kindness is a common definition. And then we've got the agasune, which is what we see as goodness in this list, and that is uprightness of heart and life, goodness, and kindness. Maybe we'll get those up on the screen where you can look at them side by side. And I mean, you tell me, what's the difference between those? We've got some of the same ideas here. And I even wondered as I was studying this. So why have these two words that are virtually identical in meaning right next to each other? Can't we just put one, have a shorter list? We know God put this in here for a reason. Let's take a look. And I think we look at how they're used in Scripture, and while very, very similar, they do have a different nuance or different use. This agasune, or goodness, is only used 4 times in the Bible. And really, it's a unique word to the Bible. It's not used in other secular Greek writing, and only 4 times in the New Testament, all of these in the writings of Paul. He uses it, of course, here, Galatians chapter 5. We also have Romans 15 and verse 14. I myself am satisfied about you, my brothers, that you yourselves are full of, here's that word, goodness, filled with all knowledge, able to instruct one another. We've got Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 9 for the fruit of light. And some versions might say the fruit of the Spirit is goodness. The fruit of light is found in all that is good. It's this goodness, what's right and true. And 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 11 says, to this end we always pray for you, that our God may make you worthy of his calling and may fulfill every desire resolve for good, for goodness, and every work of faith by his power. And that's it. Those are the times that this word is used, this goodness is used. And so by looking at really how the kindness is used and how goodness is used in a very similar meaning, but different situations, seems like kindness is more descriptive of how we behave towards others, while this goodness is more descriptive of who we are, our whole person, our personality. So we've got this goodness that's associated with our inner character, while kindness is how we display how we're kind to one another. This goodness is really more than just our actions, but who we are as a person. Maybe a good way to illustrate this, going back to Star Wars. So I don't know if any of you are a Star Wars fan or familiar with the movies. The original ones, of course. Star Wars Episode 5, I'll try and explain it in case you're not familiar. But we've got Luke Skywalker training to be a Jedi. He senses that his friends are in trouble. They are suffering and they're in danger. And so what does he do? He goes out of his way to go rescue them, to go fight evil, to confront the evil villain, Darth Vader, and to rescue his friend. And so he is doing an act of kindness, if you will, if you can stretch your mind to incorporate that illustration. So he's going as something he's doing. And so you've got that conflict, that battle that when he fights Darth Vader, that's the, hey, I'm going out and I'm doing something. Contrast that, episode 6, the next movie, you've got Luke Skywalker. He again has a confrontation with Darth Vader and the evil emperor. This time it's not so much about what he's going out to do and how he's rescuing his friends and saving them from danger. Now the conflict is much more internal. Is he going to be a good person? Is he going to give in to the dark side or stay with what's right? And so you've got not just the outward actions, but now the is he going to be good? I think that's maybe a way to think through these very similar concepts of doing good, doing kindness, but not just our actions, but our whole person, and whether we can stand up to the evil around us, and we see with, again, we're going down the rabbit hole of Star Wars, but those actions from Luke Skywalker in the film, it's not just the good that he does, but it influences others and makes an impact on those around him, brings back his father, Darth Vader. Sorry if that was a spoiler for you. I feel like at this point it's on you. You should have known. But he brings back to the good because his character, who he was, and not giving in to evil, was able to rescue those around him as well. So, question for us at the end here: is kindness and the good that you do just that, the good things you're going out to do? Or is it a defining part of this is who you are as a person? And this can't happen on our own. These are not the fruits of trying really, really hard to be a good person, and so if I work hard enough at it, I'll be good. There is definitely a place for desiring this in our lives. That's what we see in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. This is something we should desire for, fulfill this desire, this resolve for goodness. But it can't happen through our own efforts. As we see this, it is a fruit, a result of living in God's Spirit. And He can change us, not just some outward actions as we are being kind and good to others, but change us really as a person to be that good person, that goodness can be evident in our lives. So as we mentioned in Romans chapter 15, this is a sign of that spiritual maturity, the goodness that's in us that can then influence others and help as we do these acts of kindness to others. So very similar words, very similar concepts, but beyond just what we're doing, having goodness in our lives. I hope you enjoy the discussion as we talk through some of the difference between some of these words and how we can display goodness as a fruit of the Spirit working in our lives.